The Hearthline was not supposed to be in the Shardwake Expanse. That was, broadly speaking, true of most sensible ships. The Expanse had no profitable colonies, no elegant trade stations, no fashionable spas, no strategic military value, and no ruins ancient enough for wealthy scholars to ruin their own careers over. It was a ragged region of dim stars, magnetic fog, wandering ice, and the sort of navigational reports that made insurance agents lower their voices. Captain Calder Voss had taken the job anyway. About Captain Calder Voss, the human owner-operator of the Hearthline, a practical, stubborn captain from a do-not-approach world. Calder believes a ship is a home before it is a machine. Not because the money was good, the money was terrible. Not because the destination was safe, the destination was listed as uncertain, which was the polite registry term for nobody knows where it went. And not because the client was trustworthy. The client had arrived aboard the Hearthline wrapped in 3 layers of devotional cloth, carrying a cracked distress beacon, and refusing to give his name until Gribik Vorn walked into the galley and dropped a breakfast tray. For exactly 1 second, Gribik did not speak. That frightened everyone who knew him. About Gribik, the Brindlefolk freight chief of the Hearthline. Cheerful, dramatic, and deeply devoted to cargo discipline, Gribik hides a dark past as an apostate assassin from the Silent Thorn religious order. The Shardwake rescue forces him to face the name he left behind. Then the little orange-red Brindlefolk freight chief whispered, "No." The stranger bowed his head. "Brother Thorn of quiet hands," he said. Gribik's grin appeared, bright and sharp and entirely false. "Ah, a joke, a delightful and suicidal joke. I am Gribik Vorn, heroic master of freight, beloved guardian of cargo, and legal stockholder in this noble vessel." The stranger looked at him with tired golden eyes. "You were Gribble before you were Gribik." The galley went very still. About Biscuit, the Hearthline's uplifted dog and chief morale officer. His collar translates his observations, which are usually simple, devastatingly accurate, and emotionally inconvenient. Biscuit specializes in blankets, snacks, and telling frightened people the truth gently. "You smell like old fear," Biscuit told Gribik. Gribik closed his eyes. Mara appeared in hard light beside the coffee dispenser, wearing her usual engineer's jacket and the expression of a woman who had already reviewed 12 bad outcomes and disliked all of them. About Mara, the Hearthline's artificial intelligence, brilliant, dry-witted, protective, and absolutely not emotionally attached to the crew, according to herself and no one else. She controls the ship's hard light bodies, drones, robots, sensors, and many of its questionable tactical improvisations. "Captain," she said over ship comms, "I believe this breakfast has become operationally significant." Calder set down his mug. He was not a man who wasted movement. He had been built by hard work, bad schools, failed institutions, and the stubborn human refusal to let the universe have the last word. He looked from the stranger to Gribik. "Conference room," he said. "Captain," Gribik began. "Now." Gribik swallowed a lifetime. Then he nodded. The stranger's name was S. Saffron Knife Beneath the Moon, though he permitted Calder to call him Saffron after Helena threatened to sedate anyone who made her say the full thing during triage. He was a Brindlefolk elder, though not old in the frail sense. His skin had faded from bright tangerine to burnt copper. His patterned stripes had gone pale around the eyes and joints. He wore devotional wrappings dyed a dull brown, each strip stitched with tiny symbols in silver thread. Rune Ket stood by the conference room door with all 4 arms folded. About Rune Ket, the Hearthline's 4-armed security chief, gruff, practical, and allergic to heroic nonsense, though he keeps participating in it. Rune trusts Calder's instincts while complaining about them at every opportunity. Tavi Wren sat beside Biscuit, trying not to stare at Gribik. About Tavi Wren, young Verithy apprentice aboard the Hearthline, earnest, clever, and still growing into courage, Tavi helps coordinate evacuees and proves that technical knowledge can be as heroic as a weapon. Mara stood at the head of the table, though she was also the table, the lights, the air scrubbers, the ship, and at least 4 drones currently pretending not to eavesdrop. Calder leaned back in his off-center chair. "Start with the distress beacon," he said. Saffron placed it on the table. The device was old, dented, and ugly. That alone made it compatible with the Hearthline's general philosophy. Its casing had been carved with prayer marks. Its internal oscillator pulsed once every 9 seconds in a rhythm like a tired heart. Mara dimmed the lights. A distorted hologram rose above the table. Static tore through it. Then came a voice. Vowhold Kestrel calling any merciful vessel. Population 612. Atmospheric integrity failing. Gravity spine unstable. Children sealed in lower sanctum. Storm has taken the stars. Repeat, storm has taken the stars. We are no longer where we were. We see. The transmission shrieked. Another image flashed through. A ship, broad-backed, blunt-sterned, dark gray hull, the Hearthline. The Hearthline is an independent cargo and passenger hauler, practical, overbuilt, warm-hearted, and designed to reach forgotten places where larger ships rarely bother going. With her stubborn human captain, protective AI, hard light crew systems, rescue-ready cargo bay, and habit of treating passengers like family, she is less a famous starship than a home that lowers its rev when people need saving. But wrong. Its plating was blackened like old blood. Spikes and boarding teeth jutted from the stern ramp. Its name had been gouged across the hull in red light. Hearthline. Beneath it, smaller letters burned. No one comes back. The image vanished. No one spoke. Then Mara said softly, "That is rude." Calder looked at Saffron. "Explain." Saffron folded his hands. Vowhold Kestrel was an exile colony, he said. Brindlefolk of the Silent Thorn. Religious outcasts. Penitents. Apostates. Those who refused the final obedience. Gribbick stared at the table. Helena, who had been quiet until then, glanced at him. Gribble? Dr. Helena Marrow, the Hearthline's human doctor, sharp-tongued, steady under pressure, and fiercely protective of her patients and crew. Her affection for Gribbick shows in threats of medically supervised violence. He flinched at the old name. Saffron continued. The Silent Thorn began as a devotional order. We trained body, mind, breath, patience. We served as protectors of pilgrims, guardians of sacred archives, watchers at the border between faith and violence. Rune grunted. That sounds like the clean version. It is, Saffron said. His voice was gentle. That made it worse. Over centuries, protectors became judges. Judges became executioners. Executioners became holy weapons. The Silent Thorn became an order of assassins. Tavy's throat frills tightened. Biscuit leaned against him. Gribbick rose from his chair. I was a child, he said. No one interrupted him. The temple took children with quick hands, bright eyes, flexible morals, and inconvenient families. We learned prayers before language. We learned anatomy before arithmetic. We learned how to move silently, how to strike nerves, how to make death look like fear, illness, accident, divine will. His grin flickered, tried to return, failed. I was excellent, he said. The greatest prodigy in 12 shrines. The knife that laughed, the small mercy, thorn of quiet hands. The words fell flat and ugly. Helena reached across the table and put her hand over his. Gribbick looked at it as though it were an unexpected rescue craft. I killed who they told me to kill, he said, until they told me to kill a child. Saffron bowed his head. Gribbick's voice shrank. A little archivist girl. She had copied forbidden histories, histories that proved the Order had lied. I found her in the archive stacks holding a book larger than her torso. She asked if I had come to help. He laughed once. It hurt to hear. So I did. Mara's hard light expression softened by a degree only the crew would recognize. Gribbick looked at Calder. I broke my vows, freed prisoners, burned 3 sanctums, stole a shuttle, saved 27 apostates and possibly 1 extremely judgmental shrine bird. Possibly? Calder asked. It refused to confirm its rescue. Understandable. Saffron looked at Gribbick. Those 27 founded Vowhold Kestrel. Others joined. Families, old teachers, failed killers, those who wanted silence without murder. We became farmers, scribes, engineers, parents. Assassins, Rune said. Former assassins, Saffron replied. Rune's eyes narrowed. Former is a word people use when they hope nobody checks. Saffron accepted that with a small nod. Yes. Calder looked at the beacon again. What happened? The outpost was built on a drifting moonlet with engines old enough to have their own superstitions, Saffron said. It traveled between unclaimed systems, hidden from the Order. 3 weeks ago, it entered what our charts called a harmless aurora stream. Mara's eyes sharpened. Cosmic storm. Worse, Saffron said. A wound, a portal, a place where probability thinned. The outpost passed through and did not return. Calder tapped the table, but the beacon did. With help, Saffron said. A sister of the colony opened a slit long enough to transmit. She also sent coordinates. The map appeared. The coordinates sat in the Shardwake Expanse like a dare. Calder studied them for 4 seconds. No, Rune said. Calder did not look at him. I didn't say anything. You leaned. I leaned. You leaned heroically. I know the difference. Biscuit's tail thumped once. People are trapped, Rune sighed. That is how heroically leaning starts. Calder looked at Mara. Can we reach it? Mara's face went still as she ran the numbers. Yes, returning is less certain. That wasn't the question. It should have been. Helena turned to Gribik. Is this order still hunting them? Gribik's eyes were dark. Yes. Saffron nodded. And if the portal remains open, worse things may come through. The room remembered the black Hearthline. Calder stood. Set course. Rune groaned. Mara said, Captain, our current cargo includes agricultural enzyme vats, 2 crates of antique musical chairs, a Varillian wedding fountain, and 1 container labeled miscellaneous devotional gourds. Gribik snapped upright. The gourds are secured. I was not questioning the gourds. The gourds felt questioned. Calder headed for the bridge. Then tell the gourds we're doing a rescue. Biscuit stood and shook himself. I will inform them gently. The Shardwake Expanse did not welcome ships. It tolerated them briefly, like a predator considering whether the meal was worth the effort. The Hearthline pushed through veils of magnetic dust and ghostlight. Blue-white arcs crawled across her shields. Ice fragments bounced from the hull. Stars bent oddly through the forward smart glass, stretching into brief silver threads before snapping back. On the bridge, Calder sat in the off-center command chair with one hand on the manual controls. Mara? Storm density increasing. Helpful version. If we were a cheaper ship, we would already be several educational pieces of wreckage. Comforting. I try. Gribik stood behind Calder, wearing a cargo harness bristling with tools, knives, scanner tags, restraint loops, and 1 ceremonial hook, polished bright enough to shave by. He had not changed clothes after the confession. Instead, he had become strangely neat, every strap allied, every buckle set. That worried Helena more than panic would have. She stood at the rear of the bridge, medical kit over one shoulder. You don't have to come on the boarding team. Gribik laughed. It was almost his old laugh. My dear Dr. Marrow, the colony contains 600 frightened Brindlefolk, unstable cargo architecture, possible assassin traps, hostile parallel pirates, and spiritual trauma. Obviously, they require a freight chief. They require you, Helena said. Gribik's ears flattened. Rune checked a heavy restraint launcher. Touching. Awful timing. Tavi's voice came from passenger operations. Emergency cabins are prepped. I've set atmosphere profiles for Brindlefolk standard, low stress lighting, and warm floor temperature. Biscuit added, I have placed blankets in all common areas, also snacks. People survive better with snacks. Mara said, Chief Morale Officer, you have placed snacks in areas not listed on the emergency provisioning chart. Yes, Biscuit replied. A pause. Acceptable, Mara said. The storm opened. One moment the Hearthline flew through blue-white fury. The next, the universe tore like cloth. Ahead of them hung a vast circular bruise in space, rimmed with lightning and rotating bands of violet dark. It was not black. Black would have been natural. This was the color of something that had never learned to obey light. Inside it floated Vowhold Kestrel. The outpost looked like a monastery built by engineers with limited funds and unlimited stubbornness. Habitation rings wrapped around a central engine spine. Prayer towers doubled as sensor masts. Hydroponic terraces clung to the outer hull beneath cracked domes. Docking arms extended like broken fingers. The entire moonlet tumbled slowly. Chunks of shielding drifted nearby. Atmosphere vented in glittering plumes. Life signs, Calder asked. Mara's voice lost its humor. 589 confirmed, 23 uncertain, multiple sealed pockets, power failing. Docking, primary docks destroyed, secondary dock occupied. The forward display sharpened. Another Hearthline was clamped to the outpost, the pirate version. It was close enough now to see the differences. The hull shape was the same, but its cargo bay had been converted into a launch rack for boarding pods. Its windows were armored over. Its stern ramp bore scorch marks, kill tallies, and a row of dangling hull fragments like trophies. On the bridge display, the pirate ship turned and hailed them. Mara did not accept. The hail forced itself through anyway. The forward screen flickered. Captain Calder Voss looked at himself. Not a mirror, a warning. The other Calder sat in a command chair centered perfectly in the pirate bridge. His face bore the same bones, the same hard jaw, the same human eyes. But where Calder's toughness had been shaped around protection, this man's had collapsed inward into appetite. He wore a black coat with a high collar. One side of his face was scarred by old burns. His smile was slow and delighted. "Well," said the other Calder, "that's new." On his shoulder sat something that might once have been an uplifted dog. Biscuit went utterly still. The creature had metal teeth, a spiked collar, and pale cybernetic eyes. It sniffed toward the screen and growled. Behind the pirate captain stood Mirror Crew Nightmares, a hard light Mara with silver eyes and no warmth, a broad, scarred Rune wearing trophies, a Helena in black medical armor, her smile sharp enough to bleed, and Gribble. Not the Hearthline's freight chief, not the comic little guardian of cargo, not the survivor who had made himself ridiculous because ridiculous things were harder to fear. This Brindlefolk wore the gray devotional wrappings of the Silent Thorn. His claws were caped in matte black. His eyes were calm. He looked at Gribik through the screen and bowed. "Brother," he said. Gribik made no sound. The pirate Calder leaned forward. "I don't know what kind of cosmic joke this is, but I like it. A second ship. A second crew, maybe a second me. We're going to take you apart and see what fate keeps inside." Calder's expression did not change. "You're docked to our rescue target," he said. "Unclamp and leave." The pirate bridge went quiet. Then the other Calder laughed. It was not a human laugh in the way the crew understood human laughter. Humans from DNA worlds laughed at storms, at fear, at pain, at impossible odds, because sometimes laughter was a boot placed on the throat of despair. This laugh had no defiance in it, only hunger. "Listen to you," the pirate said. "Still pretending cargo matters, still pretending passengers matter, still pretending a ship is a home instead of a weapon someone forgot to load." Calder leaned forward. "My ship is a home." The pirate's smile widened. "Then I'll burn it with everyone inside." He cut the channel. Mara spoke first. "I dislike him." Rune lifted his launcher. "Fourth method?" Calder's jaw tightened. "Not yet." The pirate Hearthline fired. The first volley slammed into the Hearthline's shields hard enough to throw Tavi against a corridor wall and send 3 devotional gourds into what Gribik would later describe as an unacceptable theological migration. Calder rolled the ship under the second volley. The Hearthline was not a warship. That mattered. Warships were built around clean firing lanes, armor belts, military reactors, and crews trained to reduce every problem to targeting solutions. The Hearthline was built around cargo, passengers, machines, spare parts, improvised vehicles, redundant systems, overbuilt doors, and an AI who considered every hallway a personal opinion. That mattered more. "Mara," Calder snapped, "blind them." "With what? Surprise me." "I always do." The roof hatch opened. For 3 terrifying seconds, the Hearthline exposed the upper freight bay to space. Atmospheric seals held. Gravity fields snapped tight. 8 cargo drones shot upward carrying emergency coffee makers. The coffee makers had been modified. Calder glanced at the display. "Mara, morale is a survival system." The drones released. 17 small devices tumbled across space toward the pirate Hearthline. The enemy point defense system ignored them for half a second because no sane combat algorithm prioritized kitchen equipment. Then the coffee makers detonated into expanding clouds of reflective foil, thermal chaff, signal noise, and boiling caffeine vapor. The pirate ship's targeting sensors screamed. Gribik stared. "You weaponized coffee?" Mara lifted her chin. "I diversified it." Calder drove the Hearthline straight through the glittering cloud. "Rune, boarding defense. Helena, triage teams. Tavi, keep passengers ready." "Gribik, I am going over," Gribik said. "No, yes." Calder looked back. Gribik stood very small in the bridge light. He had never looked less silly. That, somehow, made him seem far more dangerous. My people are aboard that outpost, he said. My sins are aboard that outpost. My other self is aboard that outpost. Captain, I have hidden from the silent thorn for 12 years. His claws flexed. Today I resign from hiding. Calder held his gaze. Then he nodded. Take Rune. Rune grunted. I am being volunteered into heroic nonsense again. Yes, Calder said. Fine. But I am complaining officially. Logged, Mara said. Do not enjoy that. I enjoy nothing. I am a neutral logistical intelligence. Everyone ignored the lie. The rescue began badly. Rescues usually did. The Hearthline could not dock, so Mara fired 4 magnetic tether harpoons into Vowhold Kestrel's outer hull and dragged the tumbling outpost into a less suicidal rotation. The little sun reactor surged, dumping power into shield harmonics, gravity correction, and emergency fabrication. The cargo bay became a storm of purposeful chaos. Hard light stewards assembled pressure litters. Cargo walkers loaded atmosphere tanks. Medbots rolled out in neat lines. Biscuit supervised evacuee reception with grave authority. Warm blankets there, he told Tavy. Crying people there. People pretending not to cry also there. But do not call them that. Tavy nodded quickly. What about injured? Dr. Helena gets the bleeding. We get the shaking. The first evacuees came through by matter beam. Brindlefolk children appeared in columns of blue-white light, clutching prayer beads, tools, one another. They wore patched outpost clothes. Some had old assassin order markings cut from their sleeves. Others had been born free of them and looked around the Hearthline with wide, terrified eyes. A little girl with copper skin and white stripes stared at Biscuit. Are you a guardian beast? She whispered. Biscuit considered this. Yes, he said. That is mostly what dogs do. She hugged him immediately. Biscuit looked at Tavy over the child's shoulder. This one is leaking fear. Tavy knelt. We can secure that. On Vowhold Kestrel, Gribik and Rune entered through a maintenance wound. The corridor beyond had no gravity, no lights, and too much silence. Emergency strips glowed faint red along the floor. Loose prayer papers drifted in the air. Somewhere deep in the outpost, metal groaned like an old animal. Gribik pushed forward, mag boots clicking. Rune followed with 2 arms on his launcher, one on a shield projector, and one carrying a sealed case of medical foam. You know, Rune said, when Calder hired me, he said cargo work was quiet. He lied heroically. He lied normally. You people add trumpets to everything. A shape moved ahead. Rune raised the launcher. Gribik lifted one claw. Wait! A Brindlefolk woman stepped from a side passage with a curved blade in each hand. She was tall for their species, lean rather than round, with amber skin patterned in dark stripes. One side of her face bore the white ash mark of renunciation. Her eyes widened when she saw Gribik. Then she slapped him. Rune blinked. Gribik absorbed the blow with dignity, which is to say he spun halfway around and grabbed a wall rail. Traditional greeting? Rune asked. The woman's voice shook. You dramatic little fraud. Gribik rubbed his cheek. Sister Pella, your affection remains vigorous. You were dead. I have often been reported so by people with poor follow-through. You were dead to us. That struck harder than the slap. Gribik bowed his head. Yes. Pella's blades lowered. Her anger had a decade of grief beneath it. You left us, she said. I saved you, then vanished. I was poison. The Order hunted anything near me. We were already hunted. Yes, he said, and I was afraid. The outpost shuddered. Rune looked up. Reunion speed. Increase. Pella wiped her eyes with the back of one wrist and snapped into motion. Lower Sanctum has 80 children and 12 caretakers sealed behind a jammed pressure gate. Hydroponics holds 40 wounded. The central shrine is compromised, and there are boarders. Pirates? Rune asked. Pella's face tightened. Worse. Gribik knew before she said it. Silent thorn. Pella nodded. Not ours. Theirs. The parallel reality assassins had come through with the pirate Hearthline. Of course they had, because some evils were unimaginative across all universes. On the Hearthline's bridge, Calder fought himself. It was deeply annoying. The pirate captain knew his instincts. Worse, he knew the ship's general capabilities. When Calder dodged, the other Calder anticipated. When Calder pushed toward the outpost to shield evacuees, the other Calder angled for the passenger decks. When Mara deployed decoy drones, the pirate Mara corrupted 2 of them and sent them back laughing in dead machine code. Her firewall manners are atrocious, Mara said. The bridge lights flickered. Calder's hands moved over controls. Can you beat her? I am offended by the question. That's not an answer. She is faster in hostile intrusion. I am better integrated with my crew. Meaning? Keep doing emotionally irrational things. It confuses her. The pirate Hearthline lunged from the chaff cloud, weapons hot. Calder did the irrational thing. He killed thrust. For half a second, the real Hearthline dropped relative to the outpost. The pirate volley passed overhead and tore into the storm rim instead. The portal screamed. Purple lightning lashed outward and struck the pirate ship. The enemy shields flared. Nice, Calder said. Mara said, do not compliment yourself by proxy. The comm cracked open again. The pirate Calder appeared, face lit by alarms. There you are, he said. That stupid human trick. Gamble the hull. Save the strangers. Make it look noble. Calder said nothing. The pirate leaned closer. I know what you are. I know what happens when no one comes for you. I know what grows in the dark when a boy learns the galaxy does not care. Calder's fingers tightened. Helena, entering the bridge to grab emergency data, stopped. The pirate smiled softly. I stopped pretending. That's the only difference between us. Calder looked at him then. No, he said. The difference is somebody trusted me, and I chose to become worth it. The pirate's face hardened. Calder cut the channel. Helena's gaze stayed on him. That was dangerously close to emotional honesty, she said. Storm interference. He glanced at her. Medical? Crowded, survivable. Biscuit is being worshipped by 7 children and 1 elderly assassin. Acceptable. Gribble? On the outpost. Helena's expression sharpened. Calder softened his voice. He'll come back. You don't know that. No. Their eyes met for half a breath too long. Then another impact shook the ship, and both remembered they were professionals. Try not to die, Helena said. Bossy. Someone has to be. On Vowhold Kestrel, the silent thorn moved like shadows with knives. That was not poetry. It was training. The outpost corridors were dark, twisted by damage, and full of floating debris. The assassins used every scrap of it. They kicked off walls without sound. They hid behind prayer banners. They struck from ceiling corners and maintenance alcoves. Their blades were short, dark, and venom-bright. Against most species, it would have been a slaughter. Against Rune Ket, it was irritating. The first assassin dropped behind him. Rune caught him with one rear arm without turning, slammed him gently but decisively into the ceiling, then into the floor, then zip-tied all 4 limbs with a practiced motion. Quiet, Rune said. The second and third came together. Pella met one in midair, blades flashing. Gribek met the other. For 12 years he had pretended his old training was gone. It was not gone. It had been waiting behind cargo manifests, customs forms, jokes, dramatic speeches, and the sacred mathematics of load distribution. The assassin lunged toward his throat. Gribek moved half an inch, shoulder first, wrist second, breath third, pride last. His claw struck a nerve cluster under the assassin's arm. His foot hooked the ankle. His elbow touched the jaw. The assassin folded without a sound. Gribek caught him before he hit the deck. For one awful moment, his claws hovered over the killing point. Pella saw, Rune saw, Gribek breathed. Then he cuffed the assassin unconscious and pushed him into a storage niche. No, he whispered to himself, not that. Pella's voice was quiet. You still remember. Yes. Does it still want you? Gribek looked down the corridor where children were trapped behind a failing gate. Yes. Then he straightened. But I am cargo master of the Hearthline. I have better vows now. They fought their way to the lower sanctum. The pressure gate had warped in its track. Behind it, children huddled beneath a mural of a thorn bush blooming into stars. Their caretakers had sealed them in when the first pirates boarded. Air remained, but not much. A small boy pressed his face to the narrow window. Are you rescue? He asked. Gribek placed both hands against the glass. I am, he said. The child squinted. You are very small. Rune made a sound that might have been a laugh. Gribek lifted his chin. Yes, this permits me to contain more heroism per cubic measure. The boy considered this and nodded. Pella moved to the controls. Gate motor is dead. Manual release is on the other side. Rune planted his feet. Then we cut. The frame is load-bearing, Gribik said. Cut wrong and this whole section folds. Rune looked at him. Cargo problem? Gribik's eyes brightened. Cargo problem. He touched the wall. He listened. Not with mystical assassin senses, with freight senses. Vibrations, stress, air pressure, weight distribution. The tiny singing language of matter under strain. He could tell when a containment crate had been improperly secured. He could tell when a religious relic was about to explode. He could tell when destiny was attempting to shift cargo without permission. He pointed. Here, here, not there unless you wish to become decorative paste. Rune, brace. Pella, when I say, pull that prayer rail down and wedge it under the hinge. Pella blinked. That rail is sacred. There are children behind the door. She ripped it from the wall. Excellent theology, Gribik said. They worked. Rune's shield braced the ceiling. Pella wedged the rail. Gribik cut 3 precise points in the frame and kicked the release with both feet. The gate screamed open. Children poured out. One tiny girl ran straight into Gribik and wrapped herself around him. You came, she said. Gribik froze. Long ago, in an archive full of forbidden histories, another child had asked if he had come to help. This time he did not run afterward. He picked the girl up carefully. Yes, he said, voice rough, I came. Then the corridor behind them filled with black smoke. Mira Gribble stepped through it. The assassin wore no expression. Pella raised her blades. Rune raised his launcher. Gribik gently handed the child to a caretaker. Take them, he said. Pella snarled, I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. Gribble. He smiled at her. Not the false grin, not the grand grin, a small one. Pella, please. She understood then that this was not suicide, it was accounting. She led the children away. Rune hesitated. Gribik looked at him. Protect the cargo. Rune's jaw tightened. I hate when your metaphors become orders. But he went. The 2 Gribbles faced each other in the dying sanctum corridor, while the storm howled through the bones of reality. Mira Gribble spoke first. You look ridiculous. I cultivated the effect. You abandoned perfection. I abandoned murder. Same weakness. Common misunderstanding. Mira Gribble tilted his head. Our captain predicted you would hesitate. The thorn made us holy. Your hearthline made you soft. Gribik drew no blade. He raised empty hands. My hearthline made me responsible. The assassin attacked. Gribik dodged the first strike, turned the second, caught the third on a cargo hook that snapped from his wrist harness into his palm. Sparks flew. Mira Gribble's claws blurred. The old training returned in full. Step inside, break wrist, cut throat, vanish. Gribik refused each ending. He turned killing strikes into locks. He redirected blades into walls. He used cargo straps, broken rail, a loose pressure hose, and one devotional gourd that had somehow migrated through the matter beam and into the outpost because the universe was not above comedy. The gourd struck Mira Gribble in the face. He staggered. Gribik stared at it. Theology, he said, is full of surprises. Mira Gribble wiped pulp from his eyes and hissed. Then the outpost shifted. Gravity failed. Both Brindlefolk lifted from the deck. Mira Gribble used the moment perfectly. He kicked off the wall, blade aimed at Gribik's heart. Gribik saw every path, dodge and kill, block and kill, strike first and kill. Instead, he opened his arms, twisted, and let the blade pass through the loose fabric under his shoulder. He wrapped Mira Gribble in both arms and slammed his cargo harness magnet against the wall. The harness locked. So did the assassin. Mira Gribble struggled. Gribik put his hand on his double's throat. I know you, he whispered. I know the room they kept you in. I know the prayers they carved into fear. I know how good it felt when they called you chosen because no one had ever called you loved. Mira Gribble went still. Gribik's voice shook. They lied. For the first time, the assassin's face cracked. Then the pirate ship fired again, and the corridor exploded. On the hearthline, the rescue count climbed. 400, 500, 560. Mara's voice filled every passenger area. Calm, warm, unyielding. Evacuees, proceed with Tavi Rin's instructions. Do not run unless gravity tells you to, and if gravity tells you to, it is being rude. Medical emergencies to the blue lights. Families separated by evacuation sequence will be reunited. This is the Hearthline. You are safe aboard. In the lounge, Brindlefolk outcasts sat wrapped in blankets under holographic projections of warm lanterns and orchard skies. Some wept, some prayed, some stared at their own hands as though surprised to still have them. Biscuit moved among them like a holy fool with fur. An old assassin with scarred claws watched him approach. "I have killed 32 enemies," she said. Biscuit sniffed her knee. "You smell like you regret 29. She stared. Then she began to cry so quietly no one else heard. Biscuit put his head in her lap. Tavi saw it and understood something that would make him a better man for the rest of his life. Rescue was not the moment someone stepped aboard. Rescue was what happened afterward. On the bridge, Calder watched the final evacuee packets transfer. "Gribic?" he asked. Mara's eyes flickered. "Signal unstable. Rune is returning with the last group. Gribic remains near the lower sanctum." Helena arrived at the bridge doors. "Beam him." "Interference is too high," Mara said. "Then cut through it." "I am attempting to." The ship lurched. The pirate Hearthline had broken from the storm rim and was driving straight toward them. Boarding teeth extended. Mara said, "They intend to ram clamp." Calder's voice went flat. "No, they don't." The pirate ship hailed again. This time the other Calder was bleeding from the forehead and smiling like a man at church. "You can't save everyone," he said. Calder looked at the evacuee count. 588 confirmed aboard. 1 missing. Gribic. The pirate Calder saw his eyes move. "Oh," he said softly. "There it is. The hook. One little friend still outside. One little piece of cargo you can't let go." Calder did not answer. The pirate leaned forward. "I'm coming through. After I take your ship, I'll take your galaxy. Do you know how many soft stations are waiting? How many nice little colonies? How many people who still believe a ramp lowering means mercy?" His smile sharpened. "I will wear your promise like a mask." Calder stood. "Mara," he said, "evacuation status?" "Passengers secured. Medical critical but stable. Rune aboard. Gribic not aboard." "Portal?" "Widening. If the pirate vessel crosses fully into our probability layer, closure becomes exponentially more difficult. Can we close it?" "Yes." The bridge went silent. Helena whispered, "Cost?" Mara did not pretend not to care. "We must overload the storm rim with a sustained little sun harmonic while inside the threshold. The Hearthline can survive entry. Exit probability is—" "Don't," Calder said. Mara stopped. Tavi's voice came over comms. "Captain?" He sounded young. Calder looked at the storm, at the outpost, at the pirate ship, at the place where Gribic's signal flickered and vanished and returned. Then he sat back down. "Helena, get to medical." "No." That was an order. "I'm a stockholder. File a complaint." He almost smiled. "Tavi," Calder said, "you and Biscuit keep everyone calm." Tavi swallowed audibly. "Yes, Captain." Biscuit added, "I will tell them the truth gently." Rune came over comms. "Captain, busy. You are leaning heroically again." "Noted. I am on my way to the bridge. Stay with passengers." "No." Calder exhaled. "Does no one follow orders on my ship?" Mara said, "You hired for moral initiative." "I regret that." "No, you don't." On Vowhold Kestrel, Gribic woke to alarms and pain. Mirror Gribble lay pinned beside him beneath a collapsed brace. Blood darkened his devotional wrappings. The assassin was conscious, breathing shallowly. The outpost corridor had split open ahead, revealing space beyond a flickering shield membrane. Through it, Gribic could see both Hearthlines circling inside the storm. His comm crackled. "Gribic," Mara said, "respond." He coughed. "The cargo chief remains magnificently alive." Helena's voice broke in. "Injuries? Several opinions from my ribs." "Gribble." He closed his eyes. "Manageable." Calder came on. "We're closing the portal." Gribic looked at the pirate ship. He understood faster than most would have. Of course he did. Cargo masters understood doors. "Captain," he said, "you need the pirate ship held in the threshold." "Yes." "You cannot do that and retrieve me." Silence. Gribic smiled faintly. "Ah, I have located the part of the plan you were avoiding saying aloud." Calder's voice was rough. "I'm not leaving you." Mirror Gribble laughed weakly. "He will. Captains always do, when survival calculates properly." Gribic looked at him. Then he looked toward the shattered sanctum behind them. A tiny stuffed shrine bird floated in zero gravity, lost by one of the rescued children. He caught it. "No," Gribic said into the comm. "He will not leave me. I am ordering him to deliver the cargo." "You don't get to order me," Calder snapped. Gribbick's eyes stung. My captain, my friend, you wrote my commission yourself. A pause. Gribbick's voice softened. Don't let anyone move my freight without me. On the bridge, Calder closed his eyes. Mara's hands curled at her sides. Helena turned away. Rune arrived on the bridge, took in the faces, and said nothing. Then Tavi's voice cut through from passenger operations, shaking but fierce. Captain, I have an idea. Everyone looked up. Tavi continued, words tumbling. The outpost has old engine spines. Gribbick said they're superstitious but functional. If Mara can slave them through the tether harpoons, we can use the outpost's mass to pull the pirate ship sideways while we harmonic burn the portal. Mara's eyes brightened. The engine spine is damaged, not dead, Tavi said. Verethi apprenticeship manuals include obsolete colony stabilizers because our instructors hate joy. Calder opened his eyes. Mara's voice accelerated. If Gribbick can manually release the devotional anchor locks, the outpost becomes a lever. We tether the pirate Hearthline with cargo harpoons, ignite the spine, drag them into the rim, overload the portal, and matter beam Gribbick during the field recoil. Rune grunted. That sounds stupid. Mara said, it is extremely stupid. Calder smiled. Human stupid? Adjacent. Good enough. He slapped the comm. Gribbick, can you reach the anchor locks? Gribbick looked down at the brace pinning his mirror self. Yes. Mirror Gribble stared at him. You cannot move this alone. Gribbick pocketed the stuffed shrine bird. I am aware. The assassin's eyes narrowed. No. Yes. I am not helping you. Gribbick leaned close. In your universe, did anyone come back for you? Mirror Gribble went still. Gribbick's voice was almost kind. Help me save children who will never become us. For 3 breaths, the assassin from the cruel universe said nothing. Then he laughed. It sounded broken. It sounded almost Brindlefolk. I hate you, he said. Common first step toward redemption. Do not make this heroic. I make everything heroic. Together, they lifted the brace. It should have been impossible. But impossibility often depends on local gravity, available leverage, pain tolerance, and whether a small orange alien has decided destiny is moving cargo without permission. They got free. They crawled through the broken corridor toward the manual anchor shrine. Behind them, Vowhold Kestrel died by inches. Ahead, the portal widened. The pirate Hearthline accelerated toward the opening, weapons blazing. The real Hearthline turned to face it. Mara fired every tether harpoon she had. Some missed, some shattered. 3 struck the pirate hull and bit deep. The pirate Calder appeared on screen one final time, furious now. What are you doing? Calder's smile was all teeth. Docking. The Hearthline's little sun roared. Power poured through the tethers into the storm rim. The portal flared. Reality flexed like glass under heat. Inside Vowhold Kestrel, Gribbick and Mirror Gribble reached the anchor shrine. The manual locks were 4 black levers around a central prayer wheel. Mirror Gribble slumped against the console. We pull together, yes. You understand I cannot go with you. Gribbick hesitated. The assassin touched the thorn mark on his own chest. My captain made me a knife. Yours made you family. I want one useful thing before the dark. Gribbick looked at him for a long moment. Then he removed his cargo hook from his harness and pressed it into the assassin's hand. Mirror Gribble stared. What is this? A tool, Gribbick said. Not a weapon. It will confuse you at first. The assassin's mouth twitched. Together, they pulled the locks. The outpost's old engine spine woke. It did not wake gracefully. It woke like an elderly god with a hangover. Vowhold Kestrel fired its engines sideways. The tethered pirate Hearthline jerked off course, dragged toward the rim. Its boarding teeth snapped shut on empty space. Its weapons carved wild light through the storm. On the real Hearthline, alarms screamed. Mara, Calder shouted. Portal harmonic engaged. Beam Gribbick. I have him. No interference. Adjusting. Helena grabbed the back of Calder's chair. Bring him home, she said. Mara's face became something no court would ever recognize as artificial. I am trying. On the outpost, Mirror Gribble shoved Gribbick onto the cracked matter pad. Gribbick grabbed his wrist. Come! The assassin shook his head. Cargo capacity exceeded. I reject your manifest. For once, Mirror Gribble said, permit destiny to move one thing. The beam took Gribbick. The last thing he saw was his own face smiling without cruelty. Then the portal collapsed. Space folded inward. The pirate Hearthline struck the rim and stretched into a long black silhouette, trapped between universes. Its captain's scream cut across comms, not with fear but rage, the fury of a man denied every soft target he had mistaken for prey. The little sun burned white. The storm became a ring, then a line, then a spark, then nothing. The Hearthline tumbled out of the dead storm with half her systems screaming, 3 decks venting, 1 engine sulking, and 589 rescued Brindlefolk aboard. In the freight bay, Gribik Vorn reappeared 3 feet above the deck, smoking, bleeding, clutching a stuffed shrine bird. He dropped into an emergency foam pallet. Helena was already there. "Alive?" she demanded. Gribik opened one eye. "My survival is dramatic but convincing." She slapped a trauma patch onto his side. He squeaked. "Say, 'I'm fine,'" she warned, "and I will sedate you recreationally." He closed his mouth. Biscuit pushed through the crowd of evacuees and placed his head on Gribik's chest. "You smell different," the dog said. Gribik swallowed. "Bad different?" Biscuit thought about it. "No, open." Pella knelt beside him. Her face was wet. She did not seem embarrassed by that. "You came back," she said. Gribik looked at her, then at the rescued children, the wounded elders, the outcast assassins wrapped in Hearthline blankets beneath Hearthline lights. Then he looked toward the ceiling, where Mara watched through every sensor. "Yes," he said, "I have developed the habit." Later, after the storm died and the expanse became merely unpleasant again, the Hearthline limped toward the nearest friendly station, with Vowhold Kestrel's survivors aboard. The outpost itself was gone. That hurt. Homes mattered. Calder knew that better than most. So did the Hearthline. Mara assigned cabins carefully. Families stayed together. The holographic walls projected orchard lamps, shrine gardens, old kitchens, moonlit skies, and for one elderly former assassin who refused all comfort, a simple wooden room with 1 window and rain. He slept for 14 hours. Tavi worked until he nearly collapsed, then fell asleep sitting upright against Biscuit, who considered this an acceptable use of staff resources. Rune filed an official complaint titled "Excessive Heroic Nonsense, Shardwake Incident." Mara stamped it received, archived it, and marked it emotionally significant. Helena stitched Gribik's ribs, repaired 2 internal bleeds, and sat beside him after the medbots finished. "You scared me," she said. Gribik's ears drooped. "I apologize. Don't do it again. As a general life policy, or specifically with parallel assassin versions of myself." Gribble, he smiled faintly. She had used the old name gently, not as accusation, as witness. Pella visited next. She carried a small bundle of devotional cloth. "The elders met," she said. "In my medical bay?" Helena asked. "In the snack alcove," Pella said. Biscuit, from the doorway, looked proud. Pella unwrapped the bundle. Inside lay a strip of silver-threaded brown cloth. Gribik went very still. Pella said, "Vowhold Kestrel is gone, but its people are not. We have no moonlit, no shrine, no orchard, no towers." She looked around the medical bay, at the humming trauma beds, the busy drones, the old coffee mug, the ship's warm lights. "We request temporary sanctuary aboard the Hearthline until a new home is found." Gribik blinked. "You are asking me? You are Thorn of Quiet Hands. I am not. You are Gribik Vorn. Yes. You are Gribble." He flinched less this time. "You are apostate," Pella said. "So are we. You are cargo chief of the ship that came into the storm. You are the first of us to make new vows and mean them." She held out the cloth. "Teach us how." Gribik stared at it. Then Calder's voice came from the doorway. "Need a freight clerk?" Gribik turned. Calder leaned against the frame, tired and bruised. "The Hearthline Supporting Corporation has rules," he said. "Temporary sanctuary requires manifests, bunk assignments, food planning, liability waivers, and someone to stop the devotional gourds from colonizing my air ducts." Pella's mouth opened. Gribik's eyes shone. Calder shrugged. "Also, if people are staying long enough to help repair my ship, we discuss wages." Saffron, passing behind him, whispered, "Merciful stars." Mara appeared beside Calder. "I have prepared preliminary employment categories, apprenticeship contracts, trauma counseling schedules, and a proposed invoice." Calder looked at her. Mara added, "The invoice may become misplaced." Biscuit's tail thumped. Gribik accepted the cloth. For the first time in 12 years, he tied a Brindlefolk devotional band around his arm. Not the Silent Thorn's knot, a new one, loose enough to remove. strong enough to remember. The Hearthline reached Port Mercy 9 days late. The dockmaster took one look at the scorched hull, the cracked shield vanes, the refugee population, the prayer banners temporarily hung along the stern ramp, and the cargo manifest listing miscellaneous devotional gourds, number uncertain, and decided not to ask several questions. This was wise. Repairs began. Authorities arrived. Statements were taken. The rescued Brindlefolk were registered as displaced persons, survivors, witnesses, and, in one delicate legal category Mara invented on the spot, religious logistics consultants. No one knew what to do with that. Mara did. Weeks later, when the Hearthline finally lifted from Port Mercy, she carried less cargo than usual and more people. Some Brindlefolk remained aboard as temporary crew. Some transferred to safe colonies. Some began searching for land where a new Vowhold might grow. Pella stayed, officially as cultural liaison and unofficially because she and Gribik had 12 years of unresolved grief that had slowly, awkwardly, and with much shouting over inventory labels, begun turning into something warmer. One evening, Calder found Gribik in the freight observation booth. He was not supposed to be there. Neither was Biscuit. Both pretended otherwise. Beyond the glass, stars slid past in ordinary quiet. Calder stood beside him. "Report," he said. Gribik straightened. "Cargo secure. Passengers secure. Gourds under observation. Pella has reorganized Bay 3 according to Assassin Monastery principles, which are distressingly efficient. Rune has threatened to retire from retirement. Tavi is teaching 3 children how to use the cabin projectors. Biscuit has accepted minor deity status among the younger evacuees." Biscuit lifted his head. "I told them I am only assistant deity." Calder nodded. "Good boundaries." They stood in silence. Then Gribik said, "Captain, yeah, I lied on my application." Calder's mouth twitched. "I know. My references were forged. I know. My cargo master certificate, signed by a dead man." Mara noticed. Gribik looked up sharply. "You knew?" Calder watched the stars. "You corrected my loading diagram. That was enough?" "No." Calder looked at him then. "You looked like someone who needed a ship." Gribik's throat worked. Calder placed a folded document on the railing. Gribik opened it, a stock transfer, small, meaningful. Hearthline supporting corporation, crew share adjustment. Reason, extraordinary service during Shardwake rescue, defense of passengers, preservation of cargo, and being family, idiot. Gribik made a sound no heroic saga would ever transcribe honestly. Calder pretended not to hear it. Biscuit, lacking such restraint, pressed himself against Gribik's side. "You are leaking happy," he said. Gribik wiped his eyes with great dignity. "Moisture is a natural response to corporate paperwork." "Of course," Calder said. Above them, Mara dimmed the booth lights by 6%. She would deny it later. Outside, the stars did not care. The galaxy was full of empires, fleets, syndicates, ancient machines, beautiful lies, and storms that opened into crueler worlds. But somewhere in the minor lanes flew a broad-backed hauler with a blunt stern ramp, an overworked AI, a talking dog, a tired security chief, a doctor with sharp hands and a soft heart, a teenage apprentice learning that people were cargo with feelings, a captain who had made a home out of stubbornness, and a Brindlefolk apostate who had finally stopped running. The Hearthline was not famous by galactic standards. That was still why she was alive. But in quiet ports and frightened colonies, in refugee kitchens and Brindlefolk prayer circles, in places where maps grew uncertain and storms took the stars, a new saying began to travel. Not an official motto, not a military code, not a hymn, though some sang it like one. When the dark opens, watch the ramp. Somebody is coming.